Scheduling is required both for formative assessments as well as assessments you intend to include in gradebook and score. It starts with, under Assessment Admin, you'll use the command of Schedule, Assign, and Choose options, and any of the tests that are ready to be scheduled will show up at the bottom of the list. Now, if you were to click on the name of the test, that would take you back where you could edit some of the test properties. But if you wanted to go directly to the scheduling process, that's the button to the left. And we're going to click on that, Edit Test Schedule. The first thing to note is that it does show, in fact, in the test stage, it's ready to be scheduled. And now we're in that scheduling process. There's several different fields that I know you'll have questions about. The wonderful thing about Schoolnet is all throughout you'll see the help system has an orange ball with a question mark in the upper right. When you click on that, it opens up context-sensitive help, which is very specific to the page you're looking at right now. And in this case, it tells us how we would go about scheduling a test. If you wish, you could print that. As I scroll down, it explains what do I need to put into the start date. And of course, it has to be within the current school year and before the end date. And of course, within the reporting period. And notice the end date must occur before the score due date, which is the next field. And the score date also must be within the school year and within the reporting period. And notice that any statistics or data about this test are not going to show up until the score due date. We also have the ability to prevent students from accessing the test results until after the end date has taken place. And other fields that you'll be able to read about. I'm going to close the help system window. And now for our test, I'm going to request that it be scheduled for Friday, December 5th. Now by default, the system chooses the end date. I'm going to modify that to say I'm actually going to end it on the 6th. And the score date, I'm going to state, is going to be on the 8th. So they'll be able to see the scores as of Monday, the 6th. Pardon me, Saturday the 6th. I'm going to prevent the students from accessing the test results until after the score due date. And I want to make certain that I share my scores with my Power Teacher gradebook. In the next section of options, so scrolling down, we're going to let it default to using the Schoolnet browser test tunnel, so standard browser. Schoolnet has determined this particular passcode. It's a unique code that no other test in the North Carolina system has. And I have the option of checking any one or more of these boxes, such as, should students show their scores upon test submission? Do you want me to display this test on their home page of Schoolnet so they'll know this test is coming up? They can't take it because they'll need you to provide the test code. I can also prevent students from accessing the test before the start date or after the end date. If you wish, you can set an enforced test time of what are the testing hours and on which days. And the test will not be able to be administered unless it falls within those hours on those checked days. I'm going to uncheck that. If it were a time test, I could say, for instance, this is a 45-minute long test. And what will happen is any student who has not completed the test after 45 minutes, the test is automatically submitted with whatever they have. I'm going to turn that off. I can also track and display student response times. That's important in using the test administrator's dashboard to live action see what students are answering as they're taking the test. I also have the ability to scramble the question order. Be very careful about this when using passages, because if you have multiple questions associated with the same passage, I'm afraid those questions will get disassociated from the actual passage, and it can be very confusing with the students. But if you're not using passages, that is a great way to scramble the test question order, and you may also, if you choose, have the very answers be scrambled. And notice that's only going to apply to multiple choice questions, inline response, matching, etc. And If you allow students to pause a test, and this is a time test, that stops the clock, perhaps they've gone to the bathroom, etc. It's your option to turn it on or turn it off. In the next step, we have the ability to say that only if this is assigned to a student can they take the test. Otherwise, if the student knows the test code, they could take the test. And the next portion deals with assigning your students. I have the ability to do a quick assignment, and it would list all the different sections that I have assigned to me. In this sample, we only have a single section. You could also edit the assignment and manually do this. And then what would happen is, if you choose the radio button, assigned to sections, all of your sections will be listed one per row, and you would simply click on which of those you'd like to select and click Save. On the other hand, if you'd like to handpick which students are going to get this, you'll get a warning that I'm going to throw away the prior changes you had made. And then you get a list of all of your students, and you would proceed to check those students that you wanted to take this test, and then click on the button Add Selected, and I'm going to scroll back down, and you would continue to do that, and at the very bottom you would click Done. Well, in my case, I actually want to give this to the entire section, so I'm going to click the radio button, Assign to Sections, again with the warning that I'm changing things and I'm going to throw away my prior selections. And now, to the section, I wish to save that. And it takes a few seconds. And so now, I'm confirming everything. I need to make certain that I share my scores with PowerTeacher, because when I had changed the selection process previously, some of these could be deselected. And now that I've got all of that selected, I am ready to save. When it's finished, it shows that it has been scheduled. And if I switch to Gradebook, and I'll need to refresh my screen in Gradebook, refresh class info. You'll notice it shows up as having been scheduled for the 6th, and that's in the tab Score Sheet. It also shows up in Assignments. Now, returning back to Schoolnet, you have additional options to do, and that is, if I go to my assessment admin, I'll no longer find the test showing up here because it has been scheduled. It's not waiting to be scheduled. If I click on Find Test, and by default, my list of tests will show at the bottom. This is the test I'd like to deal with some more information about. When I click on its title, one of the options that I have is the ability to print the answer sheets. These would be the bubble sheets that I would use in order to print those sheets, have the students administer the test with paper and pencil, and then scan them with the Toshiba eStudio scanners. When I click on answer sheets, what that does is it brings up the answer sheet generator. And at that point, what I can do is I can choose which sections I'd like to generate the sheets for, and it will create a single PDF where inside of it will be one bubble sheet for each of your students, pre-filled in with their student name and number. I'm going to click on the Generate Answer Sheets, and notice at the top I'm getting a notification of message that that file is being created, and it's letting us know that once it has been created, we have exactly 24 hours to download that file, or it will be disposed of. Now, you could always regenerate the answer sheets if you didn't get a chance to download it. And in a very few minutes, unless Schoolnet is busy, we'll be able to get access to that particular download. Now that the download is complete, you'll notice I have a count showing me the number of messages waiting for me. When you click on that number, it shows that I have a download, and it lets me know that that was created today, and it also shows me older downloads below it. Well, in this case, I want to download that now. That gets downloaded as a zip file, and one of the things I can request is to open that file. And I'm using my downloads folder, and what I can do is I can request to show that in the folder. And in my case, there's my answer sheet. If I double click on that, it allows me to open it, and then I can proceed to store that elsewhere, or if I double click on it, it will open Acrobat. Resizing this window, and scaling it to fit the page, a title page, and then for each student there'll be a bubble sheet with their name and their numbers put in the top. And that completes the process of scheduling. Now, of note, if you decide you no longer want this test and you'd like to delete it out of Gradebook, that's actually all done from within Schoolnet. So if I go back to Schoolnet and once again return to Find My Test, and once you do find that test, under the section Test Actions, I have the ability to first, under Gradebook Status, request that I stop sharing with all sections that this has been assigned to, and it asks the question, do I keep the score in Gradebook or do I delete it? I'm going to have it delete it from Gradebook. And it's processing that request. And now that it's removed from Gradebook and I have the notification that it has in fact been successfully removed, one of the things I can next do is I can actually delete this test if I no longer need it. But note, tests can only be deleted if no child has taken the test. As soon as the first student has taken the test, that test is frozen so it becomes a permanent record. Well, now if I switch back to Gradebook, I'll need to, once again, in the File menu, use the Refresh Class Information, and you'll notice it's gone from my tab Assignments and gone from my score sheet. And that completes the process.